AstraZeneca paused a £200 million Cambridge project. Merck pulled out of a £1 billion London expansion. Sanofi publicly described the UK as commercially unfriendly. And at the same time, in the same market, in the same quarter, UK biotech commercial roles are projected to grow 45% this year. CRO hiring is up by 31%. CDMOs are expanding capacity across the UK at a pace that we have not seen in years. This isn't contradictory. It's a split. And the professionals who understand which side of that split they are on will make very different decisions about their careers over the next 12 to 24 months than the ones who don't. This is what the data actually shows and what it means for where you put your energy. Hi, if we haven't met before, my name is Ladijia. I'm a career transition consultant. I specialize in supporting senior professionals like yourself navigate the job search and career management spaces using market intelligence and data to create a strategy that reflects the realities of the market, not assumptions. Now, let's talk about where the growth is in the market. But before we talk about where the growth is, I want to explain what's driving the contraction, because it's not a vague economic headwind. It's a specific policy mechanism, and understanding that mechanism changes how you read the market. It's down to the VPAG, the voluntary scheme for branded medicines pricing, access, and growth. And that policy requires pharma companies to rebate a portion of NHS medicine revenue back to the government. In 2025, that rebate rate was 22.9%. That's nearly a quarter of branded medicine revenue going back. The BPI, UK Pharma and Life Sciences companies in January 2026, 29% of these companies are planning headcount reductions this year. 83% say VPAG directly influences their workforce decisions. Only 12% of these companies expect growth. This is not a bad year. This is directly a policy consequence. The companies who are going to reduce their headcount, they're not doing it because science is failing or they have lost confidence in the UK talent pool. They are recalibrating their UK commercial model in response to a pricing scheme that fundamentally changes the return on their UK investments. If you're a branded pharma, commercial, marketing, medical affairs at a large PLC, this is the environment that your employer is operating in. And that matters for your job security and for how you think about where you want to position yourself next. So now let's look at the other half of the picture. I said it was a split. While branded pharma is pulling back, smart money is flowing in elsewhere. And that is creating real jobs. Mergers and acquisition activity is up 81% globally. The UK holds 30% of all European venture capital for life sciences. Companies like Isomorphic Labs raised $600 million. Verdiva Bio raised $410 million. UCB received £500 million in life sciences infrastructure and manufacturing funding. Pharma completed phase 1 of a £151 million gene therapy expansion in Liverpool. Almac opened a new commercial manufacturing facility in Craigavon, confirmed 39 new high-value roles at their Wrexham site. Those are the area I keep coming back to. Contract development and manufacturing organizations. They are in an unusual position right now because the big pharma companies are pulling back on in-house manufacturing and they are outsourcing more and more of it. And the CDMOs are positioned, to picking up that work, and they are picking up that work. Business development roles in that space, people who combine a technical background with commercial acumen, they are being described by specialist recruiters as the hardest profile to find in the market right now. And that scarcity has a direct effect on salaries and on how those roles get filled. NHS Digital is in its own category. The NHS 10-year health plan commits £226 billion in revenue funding and 14.6 billion in capital for frontline digitization. That is funded policy. The EPR rollout across NHS trusts is creating demand for interoperability specialists, clinical safety officers, and digital transformation leadership at ICB level. Interim roles in that space, they are paying £400 to £500 a day. This is outside of IR35. Another cluster of opportunities is health tech scale-ups. They're hiring to Oviva raised 200 million euros and is building out its commercial and clinical teams. Yolas Medical, Bright Heart, and Ivaro. These companies are all actively hiring. Now, when I built this research, I identified 12 strategic themes that are shaping what gets hired across pharma, biotech, health tech, and medtech right now. So I want to walk you through the ones where the positioning premium is clearest. The first cluster of roles is AI governance, not just AI tools. There's a structural shortage of people who understand how AI integrates with regulated clinical and regulatory workflows and who can operate at board level. This is not a developer role. It's a domain expert who understands what AI can and cannot do inside a regulated environment. QA leads, medical writers, and regulatory affairs professionals who have developed this fluency. They're in a different hiring conversation to those who have not. Another cluster of these roles is regulatory strategy with digital fluency. The MHRA consultation on CE mark recognition and the UK RP deadline in March 2026 have created genuine complexity. So the people who can navigate UKCA, MDR, and AI-enabled regulatory workflows simultaneously, they're scarce. One specialist recruiter described the dual language profile, someone who writes code and speaks regulation, as the hardest profile to fill right now in medtech. Another cluster of roles that's interesting, commercial model transformation. The VPAG pressure is forcing pharma companies to rethink how they sell. ICS fluency, omnichannel execution, and the ability to redesign commercial models rather than just run them is where the value sits here. The generalist key account manager or brand manager who has not developed this is in a more difficult position than they were 2 years ago. Next premium positioning angle to consider is cultural agility across ownership structures. Moving from big pharma PLC culture to a PE or VC-backed biotech or CDMO is a steep transition. The people who can do it credibly, who can operate in a smaller, faster, more commercially exposed environment, they're attractive to a part of the market that is currently growing. Those who cannot make that translation are locked into a part of the market that is contracting. Again, what does all of this mean for your position? This is the question that this data is asking you to really consider. If you are currently employed in pharma or in life sciences, which side of this split are you positioned on? Not which company you work for. What skills, what credibility, what relationships do you have? And which parts of the market do they belong to? The professionals I see navigating this well, they're not necessarily moving companies or changing jobs. Some of them are building very specific capabilities within their current role that position them for the growing side of the market. AI governance fluency, regulatory complexity experience, CDMO adjacent commercial skills, NHS digital understanding. Now, the people who are stuck, they are the people who are excellent at what they have always done in a part of the market that is now contracting with no clear bridge to crossover to where the growth is. That bridge does not have to take 2 years to build, but it requires a clear view of the market, an honest assessment of where your current skills sit within the market, and a deliberate plan for the next 12 to 24 months. Not a motivational commitment to do better, an actual strategy with a timeline. I want to be straight with you about something. The people who will struggle the most over the next 2 years, it's not the least experienced or the least capable. The people who will struggle are the ones who wait until they're in crisis to think about this. By the time redundancy lands, or the restructure happens, or the role disappears in a reorganization, the positioning work that typically takes 12 months to pay off has not even been, has not even been started. If you are currently employed and you want to think through what your positioning needs to look like in the context of this market split, that's exactly what I do in my AI career strategy sessions. 90 minutes. I look at the market data relevant to your sector and to your function. We work out where your skills sit in relation to where the demand is, and we build a 12 to 24-month plan that reflects the actual market, not assumptions about it. I put the link in the description. I run 10 to 12 of these a month, so availability is real, but not unlimited. If you're in the middle of a job search, it's not too late. I run a session specifically for that, and I will put it in the description as well. Now, if this was useful, please like it, helps others find it as well. Also, please subscribe. My previous video on why pharma professionals in active search are often using the wrong strategy for the level they're operating at, I've also linked it here. Thank you for listening.